Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Helping Friendly podcast. This is the show. I guess that's all I got to say. Hey, Brian.
I was
Hey,
like,
Megan.
wow, what is this?
The
I
show.
was waiting.
This is the show. This is
Here it
the
is.
show. All right. So, guys, we're back to our top 25 tours of all time. We do have some intros, we have some things to talk about, we have some things to go through. But first, we have a very important thing to discuss, which is the results of the Tweezer draft.
Oh,
God.
yeah, I
You
forgot this
wouldn't
was
even
coming.
tell us either.
Nope.
Like, I don't know.
I
Do
didn't
you know,
tell. I
Brian?
didn't tell anyone.
No
No.
idea.
So
Okay.
I'll wait for. I think people are still showing up. But there is there's a result, and I can't say that it's good. I can't say that it's fair. I can't say that it's accurate. But I'll tell you that the votes are in.
I am thinking of all five of us winning and it being unfair and inaccurate. Like, there's reasons for all of us.
Yeah, because it was so equal that you can't possibly choose one winner. It's just
Everyone ended up with a great list of tweezers, and we also left off probably 5 additional lists of great tweezers. That's what we're dealing with here. Like, we were not dealing with limited options. We were dealing with too many options.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like it's worthy of doing a tweezer draft part 2 in about 6 months. Just like taking the ones we picked off the table and just seeing what we can do.
Oh, like a tier 2 tweezer draft, kind of.
But it may not even be.
Yeah.
It may actually be as good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we all got amazing lists of tweezers. I do think it's between you two to win, I have to say. I think it's one of you two.
Well,
it's really tough to go up against Jonathan's 11/28/94 and 6/14/95, 12/1/96, 6/9/2000 all in a row. That is the man decided a strategy that I did not approach it that way at all, and there's a lot to say he did right there.
Yeah,
it's true.
Okay, so let's just start. I'm gonna do a
and he got Tahoe. Sorry,
I'm gonna do it from 5th to 1st place. So
okay.
Ooh. In 5th place, with 12% of the vote, we have Matt. In 4th place, with 16.7% of the vote, we have Jonathan. In 3rd place,
I am shocked.
Me too. I thought for sure I was 4th.
With 22.2% of the vote, in 3rd place is me.
Hold on.
In 2nd place.
Hold on. Oh, can we just hold on?
Yeah,
you have 4/21/92, 5/7/94, 12/6/97, 12/16/99, 8/1/15. The others are still great. 12/14/95, 1/2/16, and 10/29/21. But like those 5 or those 6, holy crap, RJ!
I am shocked.
Well, right. Let me tell you, you're not the only one who's shocked.
And just to be fair, I did not put a picture of myself smiling when I posted asking for votes. There was no images of me in that post, just for the record. No, there wasn't.
It's not fair.
There was nothing. Fair. And I'll tell you what. This is... So we all had our list, and I'll tell you, the real victory, is the friends we made along the way, obviously.
100%.
Yeah, of course.
I had a list, and I got almost all of my number 1 picks across eras. So, like, to me, I was like, I got all my favorite. I got almost all of my top picks. I think, Brian, you got 1 or 2 of them, and Megan, you got 1 maybe. But I think
I got 1 of yours.
I'm happy. Like, I'm happy with where I ended up. But, this is all about democracy here, at HF Pod. So in 2nd place with 24.1% of the vote, Megan. And in 1st place,
generous, I have to say,
with 25% of the vote is Brian. Brian is the tweezer champion. I will say that it was 25% for Brian, 24.1 for Megan, 22.2 for me, 16.7 for Jonathan, and 12% for Matt. So the people have spoken. Let us know what you think. Leave us voicemails about your takeaways on the Tweezer draft, because we had a lot of fun. I think I speak for everybody.
I feel like Bill Clinton winning the 92 election with 43% of the vote. It's a close race. I kind of can't believe that my strategy paid off, but I'm really proud of the strategy that I built up over a couple of weeks. All the research that I did, the time I spent in, the hours you spend in the weight room when nobody's looking. It's just this one is for Iculus. Thank you for believing in me and driving me through this challenging period of isolation where I was prepping for the Tweezer draft. I had a strategy to pick off a couple eras that I felt like were a little weak and get the strongest jams, what I thought in those eras. And then knowing that there's so many great tweezers in 94, 95, and 99, 2000, I figured I could wait a little bit. I didn't get the tweezers I wanted, but I felt like I got really strong tweezers. Thanks to my parents. You guys have always believed in me. And Megan, thanks to you for being such a great winner. Somewhat humble, but also just a tinge of arrogance that kind of pissed me off under the skin and got me to like, okay, I should probably take this seriously. It's not just about the friends we made along the way. It's about winning. It's truly about winning. And I seek to use this mandate to further push for segues in the Jam of the Year bracket and to further push for the Chateau Jams counting on the Jam of the Year bracket. Thank you. I will see you all at the State of the Union.
Well, I just appreciate that Brian answered a question that none of us asked, which was, how did you prepare for this draft? So
yeah,
great.
Exactly. Just launched into it.
I just can't wait for the HBO behind the scenes documentary of Brian prepping for this.
There's videos somewhere of it. It.
It's like an 80s montage with like,
on
you're
the
best
Peloton
around.
It's just the tweezer drift, like over and over again. Well, I believe in a peaceful transfer of power. So I am.
Thank you, Megan. Oh my God, democracy.
Congratulations, Brian. And I'm glad that I pushed you to work that extra little bit to beat me, because I definitely did not think I was going to beat either of you in the Tweezer draft. I was talking to Neil over the weekend and our friend from Almost Always There, and he was like, do you really think anybody could beat Brinkman or RJB in the Tweezer draft? And I didn't, but I did as well as I could. And I think the fan base was quite generous to me. I don't know if I deserve second, but I'll take it. So thanks, guys.
I thought I had it locked up. I'm not going to lie.
But, me too.
Here we are.
I'm pretty impressed by what you ultimately got, RJ. And
Thank
to
you.
not get the win, this should only motivate you for when we do our next draft, which will be 3.0 ballads.
Well, I'm done. Okay, so
3.0 ballads. Hell yeah. Let's go.
If I didn't win one of the two, I'm out. I'm out for drafts. Okay. Guys, let's move on. Congratulations, Brian. Okay, there was an article this week in the Washington Post about Fish's sphere prep. New shot of Coldplay. Fish has Coldplay by Danny Clinch, which is a great photo. I love the headline of this article. Fish is a jam band run by a control freak. That's perfect for the sphere. It's just kind of all you need to hear, but really cool.
That is a personality insight into Fish that I feel like the media has not explored all that much. It's a lot of like love and light and hippies in the community. And like the fact that Trey is a control freak is something that should be celebrated. I'm glad that it was in the headline.
Exactly. Yeah,
I agree. I think it was also something that's kind of interesting thinking about the tour that we're talking about today, in that how Trey talks about it not being a democracy. And even though he's talking about this idea of teams win, but also that there has to be someone who's in charge and who's like held accountable for everything. And I think that's interesting because that was definitely something that the band didn't start out with and that evolved into it. And this tour is kind of a part of that, those issues butting up against each other. So
yeah,
it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I agree. We all know, I think, that a lot of the stuff that's in here, but it was interesting to hear. And We will see Fish. They are obviously their webcasts. We are going to. I think we might. This is a little sort of scheduling on the fly here, but I think we might try to do a recap of the first night next Friday.
Yeah,
I think we have to.
Okay,
right.
This could be something. I don't want to overhype it, but like it's going to be different than what we've experienced for a lot of reasons, and I feel like we at least have to talk about that.
So
I agree.
yeah, we'll talk. Okay, so we'll do that next Friday. Time TBD, but we will figure that out very soon and let you all know. Okay, so moment with Meg. Meg, when is the next moment, and what's happening? Because people have been loving your interviews. The interview that you did with Scott Metzger was so nice and fun. I loved it. You got through a lot in a short period of time, which is great. What's on the horizon for you?
Thanks, RJ. I think I'm going to sit down with Tom Hamilton this week. He is playing some shows at Garcia's at the Capitol Theater. So I'm going to go up and chat with him. And then I've got a couple other people on deck too, especially after these Goose Cap shows. I've got some people that might be coming to sit and chat with me from Goose. So I'm excited about that.
Hell yeah.
That is great.
Yeah, your show is very awesome it's relaxed. It's like sitting in the living room hanging out with someone and just hearing them share their thoughts, share their mind. It's not like focused on exactly what's happening in their career at this point in time. It digs a little bit deeper in a really cool way, and you have a way of just like making everything feel comfortable and like a really good hang. So I'm so excited to see how this show continues to grow.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, it's been a real learning as you go thing, but I have great people helping me out and supporting me. So thanks.
I'd love to meet them.
Yeah, they're pretty cool guys.
You could use them, huh?
Yeah, I'd love to get some good advice on how to do this shit. Okay, last thing is that the Fish Studies Conference, they have the full kind of agenda, registration, all that stuff, fishstudies.net. We'll give you all those details. We are not going to be able to be there, but I'm excited to see what comes out of it. Keynote speaker, Benji Eisen, which is always fun. I mean, I don't know how much time they have for the keynote, but they better clear the schedule.
He's going to be amazing.
This is going.
I don't think I've ever met anyone who is more game to just talk at length about fish than Benji Eisen, and usually for the better. You just come out being like, "That was a great 90-minute sesh, dude. Thank you so much."
It's all good. You learn a lot.
It's all great. The dude fucking knows everything.
Yeah. Yep.
He's so much fun.
Okay, guys, now we need to get into it. We're talking about Japan 2000, ranked number 17 in the top 25 by fans, ranked number 19 by us. And Meg, maybe you can just give us a quick overview. I just want to say that this is a 7-show tour, and I think probably the smallest tour show-wise that we will cover, without a doubt. Barely a tour, really, but we cut it off at 4 because of the New Year's runs. So, here we are with a 7-show tour. But I have a hot take, but it's early in the morning for a hot take, but I have one. But maybe we should talk about the tour first and then get into hot takes.
Okay, so I'll do a quick Meg's Corner before we get into the hot takes here. I think it's really important just to think about where the band was before they went off for these 7 shows. They hadn't played live since Big Cypress, and they head into this year feeling kind of like, what's next after that accomplishment? They have a big office staff that's like ballooning, lots of responsibilities there, midlife things that are kind of pulling them away from the band. There's also those conflicts a little bit about who's in charge and who's making decisions. They released Farmhouse in May, and Heavy Things is a hit on the alternative charts. Then they get their first Tube nomination for a Grammy. And also they played 2 shows at Radio City, and then they record a show at the Roseland Ballroom. And that's going to air in July on the radio. And then they go to Japan for these 7 shows. They do 3 nights in Tokyo, a night in Nagoya, a night in Fukuoka, and 2 nights in Osaka. And out of these 7 shows, there are 28 Jam Chart entries.
Maybe all of them are from 3 shows, but we'll find out.
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe 4 shows.
So, Brian,
yes.
We have a tour that's 7 shows. We have 2 incredible shows, like 2 that are awesome, that have already been released. Sorry, spoiler alert. 1 that I think is like very good, and 4 that are fine. I'm just like, when going back to this, there's like the undeniable amazing shows, but I'm just sort of like now thinking about it, like why are we talking about this tour? If you think about it in terms, like, can't you find two amazing shows from any tour? Maybe not. Maybe there are some. I bet there are. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I bet there are tours that we will not cover in the top 25 that have two amazing shows as part of it, but that didn't make it into the top 20 for sure. So
Definitely.
so we're basically talking about two shows.
I think we're talking about a couple of shows and then a lot of jams, but I do think that the thing that separates this tour, when you really think about it, is 6/14/2000. I have it on my own personal rankings of Fish shows as the number 3 best Fish show of all time. There's nothing else like it. The second set is, it's like it feels like perfect for the place that they're in geographically and like the culture of Japan in the late 90s and early 2000s. It feels like them embodying the spirit of a band like Talk Talk and using silence as music and as like a musical point of communication. It is such an elevated Fish experience that I think it rises the entire tour around it, because you go into this tour thinking, well, they played that within 7 shows. Everything else has to have some magic. And to a degree, a lot of the jamming does. There's a lot of hints to where they're going on that night. And then it all kind of comes together. I think as well, when you think about them, Meg, you did a really good job setting the context. Like, they play Cyprus. Trey has talked about it on the record that walking off the stage, he and Fishman looked at each other and thought, we should break up. Like, why would we do anything? Why would we try anything else? They play a couple promotional shows in May, and then they play this tour. They do a summer tour and a fall tour, and then they break up. And so this is kind of seen as the last high point before that. Now, there is an argument to be made that, I think, to your point, RJ, Summer Tour 2000 has a 6-show run from 6/28 to 7/4 that I would kill to be released as a box set. Like, that is a perfect 6-show run, tons of highlights, diverse playing, huge jamming. But outside of that, there's a lot of hit or misses. So this is kind of that last unified sound before the breakup. I think it's their last really inspired tour until winter 2003. So almost 3 years in Fish history at that point in time. But I agree with you, and we're going to talk about this. There are a couple moments on this tour that are just like at a lower tier. So that's a lot, but like 6/14, that's the big takeaway.
What do you think, Megan?
I agree with that. You know, we were talking a lot about this offline too, about if it deserves to be there. And I think that I would argue there are 4 good shows, 2 of them being excellent. But this tour does lack kind of the volume and the consistency of other kind of like monster great tours that we're going to talk about. But my other argument about is similar to what Brian was talking about with 6/14, is that the music is so singular on this tour. Like, it is such a strong, defining sound. If you play me a section of a jam from this tour, I might be able to identify it. And I'm not good at that. I know there are people that can do that. It's an incredible skill. But if you play me some 2000 Japan, I'm probably going to be able to tell you what it is. It just doesn't sound like anything else. And it's the last great tour of 1.0. Like, that makes it important and special. And like you were saying, Brian, I kept thinking about that when I was listening to the tour, about how they were feeling, knowing they were probably going to break up at in the fall, and what it must have felt like to go to Japan and to be so far from home and to just kind of explore creatively. And I'll talk later about the themes that I think that kind of brings up, but I do think it has a special energy to it that you don't hear in a lot of other tours.
It is one. I just want to comment quickly on something you said, Meg. Like, they probably knew that they were breaking up at this point in time. From what I understand of like booking big venues like Madison Square Garden or any basketball hockey arena where they're going to play a New Year's run in, that's like a 9 to 12 month out booking.
Exactly.
So at this point in time, they know that they have not booked New Year's Eve, which means they probably know that after fall tour, something's going to happen. Like, we're going to take a little bit of a reset. I don't think that they'd fully announced it to the fan base at this point in time. They hadn't even really come to terms with it, I think, until closer to fall from what I understand. It's still a little murky. But that is a really interesting thing, that like they're getting on a plane to go on tour, but they also have like this idea that something's going to end soon.
Yeah. I think just getting to the kind of one of the themes that I have from this tour, and Brian, it kind of goes back to what you were talking about earlier. This kind of week in June and July. Like I kind of get the sense there, especially listening to the last 3 shows, which are the best shows I think objectively. They were like just getting started. You know, if they had another week or two.
Oh yeah,
Man, who knows, right? But I think
really
7 shows was probably appropriate for like this kind of thing. But you get the sense that they were like just getting heated up. You get another week of those shows. Those could have, and maybe that is kind of what we get with that week of, it's only a week and a half later in the
Yeah,
US.
exactly.
So it kind of is the continuation, but in this kind of crazy, totally different space. That's kind of like listening back, that was one takeaway.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting that like there's some similarities, but there's also that end of June run. I mean, I feel like one of the big jam takeaways is the Drowned into Rock and Roll, which is so high energy. The Bathtub Gin from 628 as well. They were kind of meeting a bigger crowd, where they were at, and like summer tour, it's a big party. Whereas Japan feels a little bit quieter, kind of that like sentiment you get in the Roses Are Free jam from Big Cypress, or the Sand jam from Big Cypress, that like they're kind of locked into a dream space, and it's like the moments between. It's just, there's a very interesting vibe to this.
Yeah, I think getting away from the US and the intensity of what the US scene was to them. Trey talks a lot about like the backstage scene being so huge then, and such a big party and so much pressure. Getting away from that, playing really small venues, just getting back to what they loved doing together. I think you can hear that in the music. And you can also hear this little bit of, and maybe this is just like me looking back on it with nostalgia, but even when this band is up against a lot and facing struggles and hitting a wall, they can still make magic together.
So yeah, and I want to just say that just to Brian's point, I was looking at the Fish Companion book earlier, and there's like a little column in the summer 2000 written by Steve Paolini. I don't know if you guys know him. Great dude, longtime Fish fan. That's the title is Best Week of Fish Ever ? And it's that run of shows.
Yeah.
And I think now is an okay time to tell you all that in the fan vote for the top 25 tours of all time, summer 2000 was ranked number 28. So we will not be covering summer 2000, despite the fact that it might have the best week of Fish of all time. And that's not our fault, because, it's the fan vote. So just, I don't know what to tell you guys, but we might have to, we're kind of like folding in some of the summer 2000 discussion here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's warranted, and I think it is interesting because, as we've noted, we've pulled a few votes from outside of the fan top 25, and we chose not to pull summer 2000. And I think part of it is it gets to this like math argument that you're having, RJ, where like, is it the percentage of greatness within a tour, or is it the like, just raw quantity? There's like, I would say there's 7 or maybe 8 really good shows on summer 2000, but the rest kind of falls a little bit below the median. And as a result, like it kind of pulls down the larger tour, where this one has less great shows, like quantity wise, but like it's more of the overall tour. So when you put it on, you feel like you're just like overwhelmed. Like 28 jam chart entries across 7 shows is legitimately crazy.
Yeah. It really is. It's like 4 a show if you average it out. And I also think this is the tour that kicked off that sound that they brought to the States. And so when I was thinking about these tours and how to rank them, it was like, how influential was that tour? And I think you don't have the summer US tour without this tour.
Agree. And I thought about that as well. Yeah, it's a really good tour.
Well, okay. Thank you. That was a good discussion. Thank you for humoring my question. Megan, what are a theme you have from this?
Yeah, I think what I was just talking about in that I think it's really interesting that the band chose to go to Japan in 99 and 2000. To me, it seems like they were definitely trying to like escape something and go somewhere where they could release that pressure a bit and also just explore. I think it's very similar to summer 96 Europe tour where they're just, I mean, the music is much better, but like they want to just get away from like these ballooning pressures and feel the intensity lessen a little bit. And so I think that's kind of, to me, what I hear on this tour is a willingness to explore together outside of the pressures of the US scene.
Yeah, one of my themes was similar, and just we're not in Vermont anymore. Brian, you lived in Asia for a while, and I wanted to ask you because part of what I've thought about these shows is like, I mean, a very obvious point. So sorry in advance, but it's just so far away from anything that they're used to, and
Yeah.
even of course, culturally, so much less familiar than Europe. With you go to Europe, you're like,
Yeah,
I mean, Europe's kind of like America in a
it's
lot of
like a
ways.
better
There's just
version of
like
it.
just different languages and different money, but like it's kind of the
Too
same.
many kings.
More trains, which is
More
awesome.
trains. Yeah, yeah.
Better
I'm down with
culture,
More
down with the
better food.
bikes.
trains, but let's kill the kings.
I think we should all talk about what's different between Europe and America for the next 35 minutes. But
We could.
but
We could riff for
but
sure.
Brian and Brian, I've never been to Asia, so
Sure.
like I don't know, but it's really far away and it's very different from anything that they did as a band. I mean, do you think that there's something to that in terms of how you hear this tour? Because I feel like there's a sound here, and we can talk about the kind of defining sound, but it's very different.
Yeah, I mean, the most tripped out I've ever been arriving in a part of the world was going to Asia for the first time because it is so modern. It works very similarly from a structural standpoint to the United States. You don't feel like a drop off in terms of quality, in terms of options, in terms of consumerism. So it looks and feels, and it's very busy and very white collar oriented, although very homogenous. So, you're just literally seeing Koreans or Japanese people. But for whatever structurally feels the same, the pace of life and the perspective of these societies that have existed for hundreds of years longer than American culture has, and have very different religious backgrounds, and there's just different perspectives on the environment and on gender relations and like your relationships with just like people on a day-to-day basis, and just like the mindset is different in a way that you feel like you're almost like stumbling as a foreigner there for a while, even though you have all the creature comforts of home. And so I think that there's something to say about that, where they probably, they arrive who knows how many days in advance, but like you don't get over the jet lag for like 3 or 4 days. So they feel almost they're like in a dream space throughout, and they're kind of like wandering through this area, slightly familiar and unfamiliar. But the other thing, and I've only had this happen to me twice, where I've gone to a location that has a meaning to fish, and I've immediately been like, oh, I get this more about fish. And that is Vermont in the summer, where it looks like Gamehenge. And I was like, I get like why fish emerged from this area where like there's no prying eyes from the outside world. It's very encouraging in terms of creative endeavors. But then the other was when I went to Japan, because you walk around Tokyo, it is the biggest city I've ever been in, and it is the quietest city I've ever been in. And there is introspection and I don't know, just like a peaceful calm about it, even though it's an urban area, that you get about 19, 20 minutes into the Tweezer from 6-9. And I just feel that. Like I feel that slowed down. You're clued into digital technology. You're clued into information. There's bright lights. There's entertainment everywhere. But there's also this like pace and this calm that you just feel in the music. So I don't know if that gives you the kind of like cultural breakdown of it, but
Yeah.
I feel it when I hear these shows.
Well, and Meg, I want to hear what you think about this, but I want to just say first that I've been watching Tokyo Vice on Max, formerly known as HBO, so I feel like I'm kind of like I get this. Like everything you said is very well. It's a really good show, and I think based on what I understand, like does a really good job of kind of portraying a lot of the stuff you were talking about. But just kind of funny to be watching that show while this tour was being spun. Megan, what else you
I
got?
love that. Yeah, I went to Tokyo and Kyoto for 2 weeks, and it was my favorite place I've ever been because of the things Brian's talking about. It felt so far from home, and there's this lonely feeling to it that you get when you're traveling there. It's Sophia Coppola captured it perfectly in Lost in Translation, but
Mm-hmm.
there's this feeling of being surrounded by so many people, but being alone. And I love to travel, and I like to be in places where I feel different and out of my element. And I felt that the strongest there. And you can hear it in the first show here when the crowd, like when the band starts up, the crowd, when they play Axela, and the crowd just goes insane. And I remember what it was like to hear Fish in Europe. And like you were saying, RJ, Europe isn't that much different. But knowing something from my home that was like so America to me, hearing that in a foreign country was so powerful. I cannot imagine what it would have been like to be in Japan and see Fish, to see if
Yeah.
you were an American. It must have just been like, it's like when you're in Japan for 2 weeks, all you want at the end of it is like a piece of bread and butter. Like you want like a baguette with like a big swab of like, salty butter on it, because you just don't eat that kind of food over there. The food you eat over there is much better, but because you crave American food, you want that. And that must have just been so satisfying to get like a big bite of Fish in this super foreign environment, and to hear them, like you were saying, Brian, dive into the kind of vibe and feeling that you have in Tokyo so well. It's pretty magical. And I think the more we talk about this, the more I realize why this tour is where it is, because it really is super special.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess let's get into like the sound and a couple of the shows, because we have a lot more to talk about. I guess let's just talk about the representative jams, because I think the kind of sound will come through in those. Brian, I just want to start by mentioning the 6-9 tweezer, which you talked about. It's pretty wild. The Fishnet jam chart notes that it's a atypically slow but monstrously improvisational version that has several peaks and valleys before speeding up and concluding in a melodic, triumphant, must-fucking hear manner. Pretty good. What it reminds me of is that this tour is like really kind of loose and disjointed and kind of messy, but like not in a bad way. That's like my, listening to this, that's kind of my takeaway. But it's a great jam to start, and coming out the first show, pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it kind of ties to a theme I have, that I kept thinking that this tour is counterbalanced excitement and energy with languid and chill slop. It's kind of what you're talking about there. Like everyone's like thrilled, and like the end of the Tweezer, you're talking about it in comparison with the Europe tour, Meg, like where you hear a Fish crowd in a club, but it's like the excitement of a Fish crowd that goes and sees them at a 20,000 person amphitheater. Like that is ridiculous. And so that excitement is there throughout this tour, but it's also kind of quiet, and it is a little sloppy and rougher on the edges, but not in a way that will be to its detriment, like their sound's detriment 4 years from then. Here it just works. It like feels like the middle of the night, and that tweezer peaks in a huge, like massive way, really big white lights, but it comes out of 9 to 10 minutes of, earthly gurgles and silence and weirdness and soundscapes from Mike and Paige. It's brilliant jamming, but very unique. What do you have, Meg?
This is definitely one of my favorite tweezers. It's definitely the best of the era. I mean, it went pretty fast in the draft. I think Jonathan got this one, and everybody was pretty pissed when he got it. I think this was probably on everyone's list.
Yes.
Good draft there, Jonathan. It's just gorgeous. Like you said, Brian, textured soundscapes, definitely one of my favorites. It moves effortlessly in between sections, which is really what a few of my favorite jams from this era do. They have really, really great kind of like fluidity to them. And this Tweezer's no exception. It's a must hear, like the jam chart say. It's beautiful.
Megan, what do you have for noteworthy jam or representative?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good jams. I am gonna pick one that maybe we don't talk about as much. I really love this 616 show from Osaka, and this is actually kind of cheating, but maybe with a segue situation, Brian, it will go back. But I think talking about it'll go okay. But the Runaway Gym and the theme from
Mm.
616 are just incredible. This Runaway Gym is like 25 minutes. It has that really like veiled soft playing from Trey. It's got the looping muted sirens. It has a build, and then it goes into this like Plinko style jam over a spacey floating background. It's so minimal. It's really trippy. It sounds like someone's making noises with their mouth for the last like little bit of it. It's really weird. It's really out there. And then it melts away to nothing. And I fucking love the last like minute and a half of this jam. It is just melty and just so vibey. They're in no hurry. And then one of my favorite segues probably of all time is the way that the theme just emerges out of that. You hear it, just the piano come right out of it. And it's just, oh, and this theme is incredible. It's a great version. It's got a driving jam, spacey effects. You can get kind of lost in that space fuzz. It's great. You hear them kind of flirt with the riff, but they don't barrel towards it. They just kind of flirt with it and then pull back from it. It has that feeling of not being in a hurry, which is definitely something that you can say a lot out of this tour. But I love it. And then it lands in Dogface Boy and Driver. This whole second set is just, it's unbelievable. But I really love this gem into theme.
Yeah, I second all of that. I want to provide another recommendation in that vein, and also start an argument with fish.net because I love you guys.
Yes.
But the previous nights, Down with Z's opens up, I think it's like 26 minutes, and it's a very similar structure to the Runaway Gym. It also has elements of the AC/DC bag from Boise from the previous September. It kind of gets into this like millennial noise bump space that reminds me of how fascinated everyone was culturally with technology and the internet and the idea of Y2K around this point in time. Like the idea that computers were going to take over, which now 20 years later, like with the birth of AI, they probably were, this was very prescient, but it was also the first time that like digital music was starting to come into the jam band space. Like up until this point, a lot of jam band sounds were either like rooted in jazz or that kind of like Allman Brothers, sunny Southern guitar solo rock. And Fish really incorporates both funk and technology in a way that has impacted jam bands up until today. Like every jam band you see with their like little gear on the mic stand and like the synthesizers, like that's all coming out of what Fish helped create in the late 90s. And this Down with Disease just exemplifies that perfectly. The thing I want to argue about is that they compare Fish.net's jam chart compares it to 12-12-95's Down with Z's, a 31-minute Down with Z's. They say that it's very exploratory, but perhaps not transcendent music. I would just like to know what is not transcendent about the band laying it out there and exploring all areas with complete freedom and will. Maybe it's not as locked in as like parts of the Twist from the night before or parts of the Gym from the following night, but this is what you're talking about, Meg, like that pace. This is the night before the final night. They know that they have another show. They've gotten comfortable. They played a really, really good show the night before, one of their best shows ever. And they kind of just have nowhere to go and can just dive into the music and let it roll. And that is one of the defining features of this overall run and our overall tour. And I implore everyone out there, if you have not listened to the 615 2000 Down with Disease in some time, please go out and do it.
Yeah, it's good, really good, really fun. We'll talk more about that show, I think. The 610 Piper is another one that I think is really notable. I don't think there's a lot going on in these first few shows, honestly, but I think the Piper from this show is Fishnet notes that it's a bleak, nightmarish soundscape, which I really like, and I think they're right. But it does have that kind of like, it's got that millennial sound, but it turns into this really strange, weird it's really, really fun to listen to. And just related to that is the Down with Disease, which opens the show, very like upbeat and very different from the Piper that comes later, and not at all like space. I mean, it's very upbeat. It's very like fun, and
It's really
so
melodic.
it's really melodic. They're really like they're going through a lot of ideas in a pretty short period of time.
Yeah, my notes for that section, I was like, did I accidentally press set 2? Like this Down with Disease and this Piper, like it feels like you're in set 2 already, which is pretty cool. I like the
Very
sound from
rare to get multiple 20-minute jams in a first set. I would actually like to look up. I've not done the research of how many times that has happened, but I can't imagine it's more than 10. Like that is 2 monster 20-minute jams. And yeah, very, very different. It's not like they're kind of repeating themes. It's the second set kind of falls off a little bit. I think that you just need like the Disease and the Piper, like you're saying, RJ. But man, you're getting a ton of diversity. It is wild as the tour unfolds, though. Like you kind of get what happens in the second set here starts to happen in 6:11 and 6:13, and then they go back into the weird darkness again towards the end.
Yeah, and I'll just say like I found the 6:11 show almost completely forgettable. There's a good really fun late set 2 Hood that is I think really, really fun. A lot of shredding, like a really good peak. 6:11 like that, it has some like high energy, like it's all like but you get through like the first 3/4 of the show and you're like, wow, they didn't really like nothing really kind of happened of note to me.
I am pretty sure that show happened all during the daytime as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like at a park or something, I think.
It's
right?
it's an outdoor amphitheater. It's the only outdoor show, I believe, of the run, and I think it's all daytime, and it reflects that. It's a daytime Phish set. Like they rarely, those type of festival sets, they rarely like dive into a 20-minute jam.
Especially like with this kind of music they've been playing on this tour, like it'd be kind of weird, right? To like drone off for like 20 minutes in like the middle of the afternoon. But yeah, I mean, the Free from that show is cool. It's got some like space funk effects. But yeah, the Birds of a Feather is energetic, but that's it I had for that show. There's not much.
I think maybe, hold on, let me see if I can do this. This is the theater.
Oh man.
This is the outdoor.
That is super cool.
That's pretty cool.
It looks like
this might be
there. Holy shit.
I think this is renovated since they played there, but like this is the scene. I guess it's I mean,
I was going to say
cool.
that is some Cold War era East Asian architecture. I have seen so many amphitheaters like that across that part of the world. That is amazing.
Look how comfortable those seats look.
Like it's such an idyllic setting, and it's like, here, let's build some angular concrete that works perfectly, guys.
Some very, very hard wooden benches with no back.
I do just want to say, just as we're kind of dipping into shows, I was going back and forth with friend of the pod, Justin Bruce, who for listeners out there, just a quick digression and plug. You might notice I'm wearing an Eggy t-shirt. These guys are absolutely incredible. I saw them last night. Justin Bruce, amazing note taker in the world of complete Phish tours. The man has a library. Like he's going to put out a book at some point of all of his notes that he takes at 3:00 in the morning while waiting to go on the air in Las Vegas. But he did a full re-listen to this tour recently and took notes. I was texting with him. He was talking about 613. It's kind of the outlier of this tour. It's almost the band channeling 92, 93 Phish. High energy rock show, and it's like the first time they've had a chance to play in front of a small crowd like this, a rock show, since Europe 97. Like a lot of changes have happened at this point in time, and it's like, how special is it that they could play a rock show in front of 600 people? So it's not the most re-listenable compared to the rest of the tour, but like in that moment, it's excellent. And you guys should listen to Justin's podcast, Vice or Virtue, if you're looking to learn a little bit more about Eggy.
Justin's great. Knows so much about Eggy. It's an awesome resource. And I also want to say the Wilson from that 613 show is crazy. It's like slightly out of control. It's really wild and intense and just like freewheeling. It's fun to listen to.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun Phish.
Yeah. Not a lot to like note in terms of jams. But that's okay.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Yeah.
You got to have one of those.
you gotta have
and
one of
it's
those,
fun.
or
Fun.
three,
Fun of one. Or
Yeah.
three.
or four.
Three.
All right.
Three.
Should we get into shows or any more jams you guys want to point out before we do?
Well, to bleed the line between it,
Well,
my other jam.
we do have to take a coffee break before getting into shows. But you
Then
tell me when you
I'll
want to
do the
go.
bleed after. I'll do the bleed
You
when
can
we
do it.
come back from this coffee break. I'm going to combine jams and shows. Stay tuned.
Whoa.
Okay. So this coffee break is brought to you by our friends at Arostia. Arostia is a coffee maker that was started by Andy Hollander, a longtime fish fan. So anyway, he's sent us some coffee and he's great, and the coffee's awesome. It's AROASTIA, Arostia. Guys, what are you watching, listening to, or reading with your coffee this weekend? And we can't have, we can't do this for 25 minutes. It's got to be
one thing.
It's got to be one thing.
I got it.
Okay. One thing.
Meg, go.
Okay. So my album that I listen to is Bunny, BNNY, 1 Million Love Songs, breathy, gauzy, beautiful, quickly made my favorites list for this year. Check that album out. My book I just finished is The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. My favorite book I've read this year so far. Unbelievable metafiction, blurring the line between truth and fiction, and an incredible account of his time in Vietnam. And you read it and you're in like a dream state the whole entire time. And I couldn't put it down. And the movie that I've watched recently that I really loved, it was a rewatch of Winter's Bone, Jennifer Lawrence movie. Just a really cool movie, kind of a painful reminder of why Trump was elected president. Just incredible casting. Love the color palette. It's about kind of like that really Midwest, I think it's in like Missouri, downtrodden part of the US. And it's beautiful film and just something that is worth watching.
What do you got, Brian?
So I am trying to finish a book I've been reading since Christmas called The Revolutionary Temper. This is by Richard Darton. This is a history of France from 1748 to 1789. What happened in 1789, students?
Oh my God. It's big.
The French Revolution started in 1789. So this is the 40 years.
You don't know you'll never understand the revolution until you understand what happened before it. Is that right?
Context,
Yeah.
baby.
It's all about context.
This sets the table of tax increases for ridiculous wars, a bunch of crazy sex scandals, how to execute people, what role does the church play, do peasants, later citizens, have any rights whatsoever, what does America mean in Europe during a very tumultuous time. The French Revolution changed the entire world, and I know a decent amount about the French Revolution, so I wanted to know about what created the French Revolution. This book is great. I'm reading it in chunks while I read a lot of fiction that RJ and Megan have forced me to read, which has made me a better person. But I won't talk about that this week. Album, I'm going to keep this very simple. The Vampire Weekend album, Only God Was Above Us, is my favorite album of the year. I've listened to it so many times. I cannot stop listening to it. I cannot, if you have not listened to it yet. Also, the dude sat in with Goose this week and played a 30-minute version of Cape Cod Kwasa Kwasa, which was one of the, like, I don't know, 15, 20 greatest musical marriages of my entire life. Like I've been wanting Indian Jam to marry each other and have lots of babies, and everybody will be happy, and the lyrics will be better, and the jams will be shreddier and weirder. Like Goose and Vampire Weekend coming together. I'm here for it. And the movie, I'm just going to recommend Downfall, which I watched last week. And it's a story of Berlin in the last 10 days of World War II from Hitler and his main team's perspective. And the guy who plays Hitler is unreal and lives this role, and you can see him physically just deteriorate over the course of the movie, and it showcases the entire pressure and intensity that the Nazi regime was under in the last 10 days. It's horrifying and intense and so good. It's on Peacock right now, and I think maybe Netflix. So I definitely would recommend it.
I want to see that.
All right. Okay. I'm going back to, I told you guys this for the first time in a while. I listened to all 4 Goose shows from the Cap, and then I immediately wanted to go back and listen to them all in order again, which hasn't happened for a while. And I'm just so happy for them. They sound great. The shows are amazing. Yeah. I mean, some of those haven't been like, headbanging to Live Goose in a little while. And it's really, really incredible 4 shows. So I'm going to keep listening to those. Watching Tokyo Vice, as I mentioned, it's a pretty underrated series, I think. Part of the HBO Max family, but really good show. I'm in the middle of season 2. Reading, I'm sad that my book I ended almost 700 page book I finished this week, The Bee Sting, and it was just devastated when it was over. Really incredible.
I can't wait to read that.
Yeah,
I know several people who, including my wife, who basically gave up on Skippy Dies, which is like a couple books ago, same author. And so I think several people I know have read this book, and or like Tom texted me and was like, this book was incredible. So I started a new one called Thistlefoot, which was recommended by my friend and listener Patrick. So reading a new book now. All right, so Arostia, Andy just hopped in here in the chat. If you go to arostia.com, you can use the code Osiris for a discount. So check out Andy's work and his coffee. It's really good. And thanks, Andy, for supporting us. Okay, that was kind of an ad, but not really. But you got some media recommendations.
It was a coffee hang. It was an Arostia coffee hang. I'm into it.
Bonus app in the middle.
It was our throwback to our Undermine Upslope music and album beer and album pairings. Man, those were good.
Fun. Those were fun.
Okay, guys, 2 don't miss shows of the tour. You can have 3 if you want, because there are only 3. So you can just name them all if you want.
So before the break, I teased a jam rec and a show rec, and that is because there's no way to talk about just one jam from the second set of 6/14/2000. Mm-hmm. You have to talk about you have to talk about the weird blips and bloops that they're playing before Back on the Train. You have to talk about the just uncanny swing that Trey plays his guitar as they're going into it, and then Mike just hits like they're in Chugoland, and they hang out there for 13 minutes in absolutely no rush. You have to talk about the just airiness and the synthesizers and the quietness with which Trey plays basically around the twist riff for like 17 minutes, and not for a second are you like, hurry up, man. Like you're just like, I'm hanging here. The stars you're like twinkling in and falling through as it goes into the jam segment of the twist jam, when it goes off to like Ghost. The fact that Walk Away ends in like a 5 a.m. hazy, just like I'm waking up out of a dream space, and that the 2001 is in absolutely no rush to do anything. And you don't want it to be like, again, you just want to live there. You want to linger there. The last thing I will say, I hate flying. Like I really don't enjoy the act of it. And one of the only ways that I've found to like calm myself down and be okay on an airplane is listening to the set. I listen to this set on every single flight I take, and it is peaceful. It's calming. It centers me. Sometimes I fall asleep in it and I wake up and like I feel like I'm in that dream space that they're living in. There's a lot of rumors about what happened during this set. I believe them all, because the way that Trey talks in the encore before they play Sleep is a man in full content who has had a very spiritual, next level experience. And you feel that in this entire set, which is basically one long jam.
Megan, we're obviously going to have a discussion about this, and I do want to hear about the theories of what happened, because this show is just a vibe. It reminds me of 7/1/97 in that way. Like it just from the opening notes, it's just loose, it's fun, but it's also like very, it's got a point where it's going. And I guess the 14th rated show of all time, according to Fishnet, which can't rate anymore. So if you didn't get your rating in before, Sorry.
Can't now.
Megan, I think this is a show that benefits from the live release. I think you get a different vibe than any of the others, but we can talk about some of the jams. But Meg, what is your feeling about 614?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite Phish shows of all time. It's probably the sexiest Phish show of all time. I think if you had to like rate them on that, it's just.
I want to see those. I want to see those rankings.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do that. That will be my summer project.
That's great.
Yeah. I mean, the first set is just incredible flow. I mean, the second set too. There's maybe not a show that has better flow than this show. There's just not one moment where you feel like, oh, that didn't need to go there. It's just perfect song selection. All the songs are played with like interest and all have a different vibe to them. You've got these like micro jams in the first set. You've got a 15-minute split, open and out to like end the set. I love the cities in the set. I love the gumbo. It's so dreamy. It's like 3 a.m., like moving through honey. It's like gauzy, serene. It feels like you're dripping. I was really into rave music at this time. I was going to a lot of raves, listening to a lot of electronic music, a lot of house, a lot of drum and bass. And this reminds me of like what I used to feel like at raves at like 3 a.m. There's just this stickiness that is, it's contagious in the show. And of course, the second set, Brian did a beautiful job explaining it. But I think what it really feels like to me too is the magic that can happen when a band is willing to sit in the quiet and settle in. It's something that I really loved about the Goose shows this week is their willingness to sit in quiet and settle into those moments. And you hear that so much in this show. It's so floaty and dreamy. It's just so many moments of this twist are just absolutely exquisite. And that's before you even get to like the separately tracked Fukuoka jam. And the abstract ideas that they're playing with and the fuzz and the textures, unbelievable. I can't get enough of this show. It's the best. It's something that every time I hear it, I'm kind of blown away by it all over again.
There's a point in the twist where when I was going back to it, I was like, well, you mentioned Meg, sorry, just the gumbo into llama is just, it's really, but it's kind of sets the tone.
And like even llama isn't annoying there. Like llama sometimes sounds annoying and it's not. It's sexier. It's like a cool llama. It's like it's
the way it comes in with just the chords helps.
Yeah,
because it very naturally pulls out and you recognize it, and then suddenly they stop and then they go into llama.
Yeah, it's like the organ, right? And he's playing the organ in a different way. And I was like, even I like llama right now. Sorry, RJ, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, you're good.
Point that out.
Yeah, good. First of all, I think I could kind of feel a sigh from the crowd when like you have those spacey, noises, and then they dropping it back on the train. I just feel like people were like, "Oh shit, I thought this was like good," but then
going somewhere crazy.
Yeah, but it works, and I think the twist jam itself is fine. Like, to me, like not like super notable from this, kind of similar to some of the jams we were talking about before, but then they bring it back to the main theme, and then they go into this jam, which is basically like a sound check, but it's like, it's really just like drums and bass for a long time. And Paige and Trey are just like pushing buttons, but in a way that makes it really, it's fun to listen to. And then they come back, Paige and Trey come back in, and it turns into this groove. And it's a really like magical moment that feels like we talked about in the Tweezer episode. And we've talked about before, like feels like very organic. They just kind of like end up in this jam. And I will just say, Brian, when they go into Walk Away, they sound so wasted or tired or out of it. Like it sounds like they just like someone woke them up and they're like, taking my time. I'm just like, what are you guys even like?
Drugs, man.
It's so weird. Such a weird 40 minutes or something. Very weird.
Well, and because I agree that sound it's unlike any other Walkaway intro. Like you pair that against when they were playing Walkaway a lot, like 2010 and 2011, and it was just like and Trey was just like, headbanging, and they were using it to like amp up the crowd. This like I feel like this tour has it shares a relationship with what came in 2.0, but this is and I guess I'll just say this. This is one of my takeaways, and I think it like fits here. Like there's an alternate reality where Big Cypress opens the door to renewed focus on creativity and health without the destruction of 2001 to 2007. Like I don't personally know where Trey was at mentally at this point in time or health wise. From everything I've heard, there were like ups and down period where like things would go well, and then it would get really dark again, and that took over and that became unsustainable. But there's a world where like they get kind of the help that they needed logistically. Everything just seemed like it was getting so big. And there's a world where like they actually get the help and they take the help that they need logistically, and a ton of pressure goes off of them and they make some really good decisions. And they're still pumping out really creative jams and really creative shows and really creative tours, and they don't need the hiatus. I think long-term, the hiatus and all that stuff has been good for them, but there is an alternative path here. And this set sounds like that to me, where the partying and the late nights and the like rock lifestyle is spilling into the show, but it's spilling into it in a complimentary way. It's not taken away. It's not like Vegas 2004 where it's like, dude, the party is on stage and it's not good. This is the party's on stage, but like we're still locked in and we're still capable of creating art within the party. The other thing that's fascinating is like, I think this is one of those sets that is benefited by a kind of weak set list. Like Back on the Train, Twist, Walk Away 2001 is not a second set anyone would ever write down on paper.
That's true.
Like it just doesn't, it doesn't really flow, but somehow this is the set where you press play on Back on the Train and you do not let up until the show's over.
Well, that's like when they're playing that way, it doesn't matter what they play.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything else to say about this show before we move on?
I mean, there's 4 hours more we could say, but we can move on.
It's the best show.
It's awesome.
Can we? I guess we have 2 more shows that we probably want to talk about. Well, what other show? I mean, really, to me, like 615 and 616 are both like must hear shows.
I'll just go quick. I like my 2 live fish recommendations, with my big one being is 615. I think it's just a really good show. The Ghost in the first set, the Bag is really good. The Disease that I defended, the Yem to close out the set. It's just this could benefit really nicely from being heard in soundboard. I also think 6-9 would. Maybe you just need the tweezer, but I do think that there's a good enough there that like there's no reason not to release a Japan box set. Like all these shows kind of could benefit from being in soundboard.
Yeah, same. I had 6-9 and 615 as my 2 live fish releases. I was surprised that the tweezer hadn't been released on Live Bait. I went back and looked at your chart, RJ, because I was a little bit surprised that that should really be released from the archive.
Well, yeah, I agree, and I guess the Down with Disease, we've talked about that from 615. I do think that tweezer at least should be on a Live Bait. Maybe they just haven't done it because it's been like kind of thematic with tours and whatnot, the releases. So,
right.
They're not going to Japan. So yeah.
But they should just do that, and they should release 615. Really, really fun, and could benefit from that treatment. The
maybe we'll get it at the from the archives that'll be played at Mondegreen this summer. That would be a really good archival drop.
That would be great. And I got to say, Meg, you talked about this earlier, but just the way that Runaway Gin closes that last set of Japan is just amazing. Really, really good. Okay, I don't want to ripcord the episode, but we're going into Numberline out of this Japan jam here. Guys, first of all, we're gonna be back Friday sometime with a night 1 Vegas review, and then we'll break down the whole run the following week from Vegas. Is there anything else you guys want to say before we wrap it up?
The only other thought I have is that the future of Fish will be short tours, and that this kind of proves that this is the direction the band is going to be successful in, is week and a half long tours. We've seen that a lot in the last few years. And I think that this is almost a recognition that to advance and continue as a band, we need to rein in it a little bit.
Yeah, the only thing is that after this conversation, I realized that I do think this tour deserves to be on the top 25 list, and I'm glad we put 100%. It on there. Yeah, it just made me realize that, like, despite our initial doubts, it's a pretty incredible tour, and I'm just blown away by how much creativity the band still had left to explore, even though they were at this point when they felt like they needed to take a break for a while. It's pretty incredible, and Druggy Fish can be really good.
You've been really bringing it home in a good way recently, Meg. I think we'll just let that be the end. These Sphere shows are going to be something else. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening. It's going to be fun.
So exciting. A lot of people came up to me at the Goose shows asking what we thought was going to happen in Vegas. So I don't think we have time for that, but if we have like a 1 second thing, Brian, what do you think is going to happen?
No songs.
Wow. RJ, what about you?
I think there's going to be a thematic thing, like Trey hinted at the article, almost like the Elements, but something like that. But I don't know what it would be now. Like I can't name it, but I'm almost thinking like space. You know, like there's going to be 4 themes that are going to be like related to the natural world in some way. That's my prediction.
Ooh, good prediction.
I'm into that.
I think they're just going to play like hours and hours long jams, and I hope one of them is bouncing around the room. But I think they're just going to blow everyone's mind with jamming. Yeah. I mean, if Mexico is any indication, this is going to be unbelievable.
We were joking last night that they just play Neil deGrasse Tyson's Cosmos and just jam over that.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe something like that will happen.
Neil deGrasse Tyson just 180 feet in front of your face.
Oh my God. I also want to say, how crazy is it that they built a mini sphere? That shows the length that this band will go to. Like, I don't understand how you do that.
The shit about the sound was like,
what? It's so
This band is operating still at a high level.
Yeah. It's incredible.
We'll see you guys on Friday to talk about this. Thank you guys so much.